Welcome, everybody, back to the Industrial Sites podcast. I have Bart with Optioryx with me, and Bart is hailing from Belgium right now. So we have the international crowd and time zone. So it's 8 in the morning for me, it's 5 in the afternoon or evening for Bart. And we are going to talk about how to add an AI layer on top of your warehouse management system if you are a company that utilizes one of those or a 3PL, and how it can help, like where insights come from it, and then common challenges that people are experiencing where this can be a solution for them. So, Bart, thanks for joining me today, and I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Happy to be here.
Yes, and Optiorx is your firm. This is the Bart show. So, what made you want to start your own firm?
Yeah, it's my firm. I always wanted to start a company at some point. I used to work at other startup companies who exited quite successfully. And at some point, I just wanted to do it on my own. I have a background in logistic optimization. I used to do all kind of projects of optimizations that happen outside of warehouse doors. And with Optioryx, we're focusing on everything that happens inside of the warehouse building.
Yes. What might be a outside the building project that you would have worked on in the past?
It's more on the vehicle routing optimization side of things. So if you would have, for example, 50 vehicles that drive around and you have 1,000 pickups or deliveries to do, I need
Yes.
to make sure that all time windows are delivered on time. All the deliveries happen within that time window. So, and then it's a very, very complex puzzle to make, and to do that in a clever way to reduce costs in the end.
I was learning a supply chain network design
All
and
right.
where the buildings should be based on labor and logistics and rents.
You
And
got
then
some great tools for that.
that's when I was first exposed to the transportation optimization side of it. And I wasn't looking for that. And so it was like, wow, okay, that's a whole nother area. We're optimizing everything everywhere. So I was just looking for the first part, but it's so good to see how many ways there are to improve what you have going on.
What kind of software did you look into there for the supply chain design?
That was Coupa, which is the old Llama Soft.
Lamasoft. Yeah, yeah, it's the most well-known software for that type of optimization problems.
Yeah, it seems like it created a lot of entrepreneurs when it sold, and everybody left and then started trying to build something like it, and then it created like a million other smaller versions that have their own little niche. So
Hmm.
that's pretty funny to see, like, who is an ex Llamasoft, or like it has that as their background sometimes. Yeah, so we're talking about optimizing in the warehouse. How is it possible to just layer on something on top of someone's WMS? I feel like that's something people only half understand how that works.
Yeah, so what we basically have seen is that warehouse management systems can do a lot of things, have a lot of parameters, support a lot of processes, but the real optimization power is sometimes lacking. And this is costing 3PLs and similar companies just a lot of money, especially walk distances are way longer than necessary in those warehouses, and too much air is being shipped and transport. And of course, this comes at a higher than necessary transport cost. So what we did there is, yeah, we added that intelligent layer on top of warehouse management system, and it's purely API connectable. So from the WMS, for example, you can send your orders over to our optimizations. We're going to make sure in what routes they're going to be picked and the sequence within those routes. So we can, let's say, reduce walk distance by 20 to 55%, often good for picking productivity increase of around 20%. Really depends on the warehouse layout, how well you do it at the moment, and also your clustering restrictions, etc. That's one thing. On the transport side of things, we see that too much air is being shipped. So we play 3D Tetris there. You're probably very familiar to the 2D Tetris, which I
Yes.
used to play as a kid as well. Well,
They
so
must
we,
have 3D now with like goggles where you can like have it in space in front of you.
yeah. Well, one of the projects we tested out, so pallet building, mixed palletization. And so our algorithm proposed what you should stack on what location on the pallet. And we tested smart glasses, but people don't like to wear this on their head for 8 hours a day. It gives them headaches. So we had to come up with another less sexy option, which is a
Yes.
2D top-down view or where you need to position it. So it's being shown on the tablet. Works like a charm. But too bad that the smart glasses didn't go through. So
Someday we'll get there. So, 3D is not just with pallets, but is also with the racking and like where and like inventory, or is it primarily with pallets?
so the 3D building is in boxes on pallets and sometimes in trucks. And trucks is a bit more complex because you got axle weight load building, etc., and all these types of restrictions come in. So
Yeah.
we're mostly focused on optimizing packaging and also the pallet building.
Can you go into loading trucks a little bit more? I always see like the conveyance system going into the back of the truck, and you see like the two guys in there if it's like smaller, like a parcels, like a e-com facility. And then
Ooh,
you
for
definitely wonder like how that gets packed efficiently. Sometimes it feels like we're just moving fast, and like the order sequence isn't necessarily like designed to be optimized.
yeah. So the truckload building is not something that really focuses on e-com deliveries because these parcels are just thrown into the vehicle. It's
Totally.
more like if you got some bigger objects. One of our customers, they have like warehouse racks, to be honest,
Yep.
rackings. They're
Yep.
all types of different items, and they need to calculate how many items will fit on a truck. And then, of course, all these items got different weights, different dimensions. The most heavy stuff should be placed on the lower part of the truck. You also got axle weight load building, which need to be very balanced, not only in one direction, but also the other direction.
Yes.
In that particular case, they wanted to have a cascade stacking as well. So starting higher up next to the driver position and all the way down. So to have it in a really stable position. So it's a lot more complex than stacking in boxes and on pallets, where we just need to take into account a bit of stability, but not to the full extent.
What's the benefit of that? Is that for unloading on your routes? Is that for like a safety, or is it for like fuel efficiency, or what's the purpose for
The
doing that?
truckload building?
Yeah,
Building is really estimating how many trucks you will need because very often it's based
capacity.
on assumptions, the rule of thumb to calculate, for example, oh, we need 23 trucks today. But yeah, of course, if in the end it would be 20, you pay 3 trucks too much. So it costs a
Yes.
lot of money if you count €1,000 truck a day. It adds
Yes.
up. So having that estimation more correct, that pays off.
Got it. We're moving backwards instead of pick paths and shipping air and truck building. We're going truck building. Now we're going back to shipping air. So I love that term, right? Because that's like a four-letter word. That's you might as well just be shipping dollar bills out to your customers and give them refunds, and everybody would be happy about it.
Voilà,
So
voilà.
why are people shipping air? What's the problem?
Variety of issues there if you still do it in a manual way. So if, for example, an order with a couple of items, it arrives at the packing station and the human needs to decide which carton box he's going to use. And in 30% of the time, this person is going to take a bigger box than necessary. It's absolutely human. I try to do it myself. And the thing is just if you're doubting between 2 boxes, and you go for the smaller one and it doesn't fit in, you lose time by restacking in the other one. Next time, for sure, you'll take the bigger box. So that's why it's
And
super,
you might
super
get
normal.
paid by time, by like
Va-
volume. Yeah.
Voila, voila, voila. Now, that being said, if we look at a 3D packing, yeah, it's nice to ship less air. Sometimes it comes at a transport cost reduction. But what is really, really interesting at the moment is that all these carriers, they use dimensional weight in their billing structure. And
Yes.
sometimes there are loopholes in that. So with 3D, smart 3D cartonization, you can really exploit those loopholes. Meaning, for example, one of our customers, he was shipping one order to the US, and the packer did an intuitively very good job. He put all items in the smallest box as possible. However, if you would optimize for transport cost, it was better to split it up in 2 parcels. And that was €60 cheaper. So it can make a big difference, although that doesn't sound really ecological because you have 2 packages. But on the other hand, the carriers do this to incentivize the parcels they get into their network because it needs to fit conveyors, etc. So, and that's the reason why. So if you apply smart 3D cartonization, you can take a very big step as a business. And this was all triggered because of the people in the US, or let's say the companies in the US, because UPS and FedEx, they started with that, I think, 15 years ago, all these dimensional surcharges. And it gradually came over across the Atlantic to Europe as well. It started cross-border, but now bpost and PostNL, for example, Belgium and Netherlands, they're applying it as well. And they got a ton of loopholes to exploit there. So very curious topic.
Do you think there's a better way to do it?
Good question. Good question.
It's really just like what is driving the ship? Is it the transportation part, right? And like, is that because transportation ultimately adds up to a larger cost at the
Yeah,
end of the day?
I think it's really triggered by the network of those carriers. They say this is what fits our network, so we're gonna incentivize our rates. So people only provide this that fits into a network. And it might be that it's more ecological to have two because it fits the network, you don't need special transport, etc. So in the end, yeah, it's quite natural that they do so. Is that the best way? I don't know. We just look at what are the numbers for our customers, what are the transport rates you have, what type of orders are you shipping, and then based on that we propose what works best for them.
Yeah, control what you can control.
Yeah, voila. I won't be able to influence the carrier rates, I guess.
Yeah, and dimensional shipping for people who are not familiar with it, can you explain it a little better?
Yeah, so the boxes or pallets you ship are not only charged based on the weight of a shipment, but also based on the dimensions. And often there is like some kind of a formula that says, okay, this is the cube meter. We're gonna multiply by 250 kilogram per cube meter. Sorry, I'm using European terms
Let it
to
rip. Yeah.
translate that into a weight component, and they take the max of both. Also, a lot of surcharges. For example, if the pallet is 1 centimeter too high, you're gonna pay 30 euro extra based on the rates you agreed with your carrier.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's cool seeing some of the shippers that have the scanners where it scans the size and it has the cardboard and like it fits it to it. I gotta only imagine you have all of your preferred dimensions in there for optimal shipping, and then
And Justin,
I'm
we
not
didn't
sure how
stop there.
perfect it.
We didn't stop there. So you're talking about capturing dimensions, etc. And so we also seen that a lot of companies, yeah, have to buy very expensive static dimensioners. Static small dimensioner is $20,000. A big one hanging at the ceiling for
Yes.
pallet
Yeah.
dimensioning costs around 50K or more. Yeah, we discussed it internally with our tech team. We got a lot of AI experts and optimization experts. We were having a beer just around the corner at the office, and all of a sudden, my co-founder, he saw the light. He said, Bart, I know how to do this with a mobile device, a commodity device. So we built the first mobile dimensioning app for SKUs, but also for pallets, and it's being used at hundreds of cross docks at the moment, just to
Nice.
capture the pallet
Yeah.
dimensions.
How cool is that? Yeah. And now seeing it go from idea to implementation and being live and working.
Yeah. In the beginning, my co-founder says, "Yeah, I think in 2 weeks I will have it up and running." Because 6 months to have the first decent working version, but then to have it really bulletproof, I think it was more than 1 year and a half to
Yes. Well,
have it
that's why you get
decently
started because
working.
you're excited that it's only 2 weeks.
Voila, voila.
So describe it more. So you all know what a mobile is, and we all know the scanning problem. How's it? How do you cross that bridge? It's not like everybody who's in the warehouse is doing it one at a time, and it's not your cell phone that's hanging from the ceiling as like
Uh,
a smaller scanner. How's that work in reality?
yeah, it's like a couple of specific devices that you need, and those specific devices, for example, iOS Pro devices or Zebra TC53 and 58 Premium with time of flight sensor. How does these devices work? Basically, they got a very good 3D scanner, meaning you can make point clouds. If you got a space, AC objects, these will all become small dots in 3D space. And based on that information, you need a lot of algorithms, a lot of special detection models to really indicate this is the object I want to dimension. You calculate that, and then maybe I'm getting too technical, but basically you can scan everything you like. It has a very high accuracy, which is nice as well. And the good thing is you can walk around and do that on the fly. We see a lot of static dimensions here in Belgium and Netherlands
Wow.
just gathering dust.
Yeah.
because people need to go to that static dimensioner. You know, right now you can just walk around and scan those things on the fly. The good thing is we added a lot of other components like AI vision to detect what object type is this, even what color. You can really extract any piece of information you like. We can scan a paper bill, something like this, shipment label, and detect all those things all at once. So you don't need to scan multiple times or write things over on paper. So it's not only mobile dimensioning, but it's like getting rid of all the paper in the warehouse with a no-code flow builder.
Yeah, I would imagine me being used to talking with people and how they're making use of their space so that we're only getting the amount of space in the box for the shell of the building that we absolutely need, that could also change your layout and your flow and like
Absolutely.
a like a where your packing needs to be or doesn't need to be maybe as a result.
Dimensions are super important, not only when you set up a warehouse management system, but also when you set up a new building, a new warehouse, because then you get into the design phase. Huh? And then the question is, how do the racks need to look? If we change the warehouse layout a bit, if we add an extra cross aisle, if we make it one directional aisle or a bidirectional, it has a super big impact on your picking productivity. All these optimizations will link it to a warehouse digital twin. So it's like a layout which you can adjust. You can say, okay, this is the start of the pick zone, this is the end of the pick zone. Here are all the racks, all the location IDs. And then you can start to simulate. So you throw in a lot of orders, could be real orders, could be fictive orders, and then you can start simulating. But based on those numbers, you can really see the impact on your picking productivity and also your warehouse space utilization. So it's being used not only on an operational basis to drive the WMS, but it's also being used by consultants in that design phase to make the clever decisions during design.
What would be some insights that are you would think of the last couple of examples of people that have gone through that exercise? Other than like, man, we're wasting or like,
It's super specific, really. Everybody says, yeah, a warehouse is the same. Goods come in, goods come out, but it depends so much on your orders. How do they look like? Are there patterns in between the goods you're ordering? For example, keyboard and a mouse are often sold together. Better to place them together. Does that apply to your business? Yes or no? If yes, you need to look into slotting optimization, need to place them together. Your warehouse layout, sometimes it's good to have not that many aisles. Sometimes it is very important to have cross aisles because then you can cross a lot more, especially if you do multi-order picking, for example. It's better to have more cross aisles because it has a big impact on your productivity, which is not the case for other scenarios. So it's really have a look at the data, make a couple of plans on how you think, some ideas on what can work, what cannot work, and just simulate it because these simulations will answer a lot of questions in a data-driven way, and you will, yeah, make decisions based on data, not just on gut feeling.
yeah, that's what it's all about these days.
It is.
Let's break into 3PL specific. So, like, how might some of the things we've talked about change for 3PLs or be like more specific to their use case? Because I got to imagine they may have a variety of different clients that they're doing work for with different SKUs, different like order patterns, and then they have them all at the same time, maybe in the same building. So I have to imagine that might increase the complexity a little bit, or might have like a different needs as a result.
Absolutely. I think PPLs are something very, very specific. And I think the ones that will really thrive is the 3PLs who have the capabilities to be really experts in that design phase.
Okay.
Meaning every customer that they onboard is different. Everything is different. And they need the capabilities on somebody who knows or has some kind of framework to know like, okay, for this specific order profile, this is what we need. And it's a variety of things. Do we need automation? Do we need automation in our picking? Do we need to do things manually? Um, do we need automation on our packaging machines, for example, or are we going to do everything manually? So you got so many factors to take into account.
Can we afford automation for this client?
Can
Yeah.
we afford it? Because
Yeah.
indeed, and that's a very touchy subject, I think for 3PLs, that is an issue because they have an investment horizon of 3 to 4 years. Their contract is 3 to 4 years long. Afterwards, there is a new RFP that's being launched. So they only look over that short horizon. Let's call it that way. So automation is just often not there. There is no business case for it. So yeah, these things require some expertise, and the most solid or future-proof 3PLs will be the ones who have that expertise on board.
Yeah. And do you help with returns at all, like reverse logistics?
Yes, but that's more with the mobile app. So with AI scanning, we can take a picture of, for example, a parcel or a product, extract all the information that's out there to directly identify the package, but also to take picture and say, look, there was damage, there was no damage. So this way you can increase the number of returns an hour from 30 to, I don't know, 40 or 45 in some cases. But it depends a bit on the return process.
Yeah. Everybody's is different.
Indeed.
I love it. And then thinking about like implementation and change and people. And so when you think of like operations and clients that you work with and they've been doing things one way and they are not as competitive as they could be, or they feel like they're wasting money, and then Bart and his crew show up to the building and start poking around and start scanning things and start coming up with ideas. And you have some ideas you'd like to implement and that you start to pilot. Like, how does implementation work? And then how do you help people deal with the change in terms of like, we do things differently now. Here's new technology and like a
Yeah,
training and
you
like,
touched
yeah.
there upon a really, really good subject, in all honesty. You got different types of friction. First of all, you got the people who work there for years
Come
and years
back,
and
Bart.
years.
You leaned back. That's how we could
Sorry.
tell it's part of the friction process. Yeah. That's the body
So,
language.
so you got indeed the people who have been doing the same thing for years and years and years. You need some change management there, but sometimes you also got the commercial friction, meaning a 3PL has some kind of a contract with his customer.
Mm.
If that's a cost plus setup, that means if we lower the cost of the 3PL, they will earn less. So
Yes.
then there is absolutely no incentive to optimize, which I think it's an issue of their customer, because they need to incentivize the 3PL to become more and more efficient. Happens more and more nowadays, by the way. But for the change management, yeah, we always analyze the current situation. For example, the pick routes. We can see how they are running in the warehouse right now, or walking in the warehouse. I hope they run, of
Yes.
course. And then we're going to analyze where the business case is. Is it in clustering, or is it more in the pick path optimization? And if in the pick path optimization, the business case or the walk distance reduction is too low, we only propose the other one. So we really take that into account in our proposals as well.
Yeah. I suppose they choose what they want from the menu of possible like solutions that you can provide.
Yeah. Right now, most often, if you get in touch with a 3PL, for example, it's we just sit together. They explain a bit the process that they established, or that they're using in the warehouse, and then they often indicate what their pain points are. And then based on that information, we can say, look, we think it's a good idea to try this one out. I just try it out for free. Go ahead. We want to keep the threshold as low as possible for our customers. Just try it out. If you like it, continue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just stop.
Yeah. What's the hardest of these solutions we've talked about for people to hear and to implement?
Yeah, so the mobile app is super fast. You can get up and running in one day, even 1 hour. So that's yeah, a very nice one. The other ones, for example, the picking optimization, it takes a bit of time, because business is often convinced very quickly once they see the numbers, but then you need to grab a ticket to the IT at the IT department, and then yeah, depending on their willingness, it takes 1 month or 6 months before it finally is added to the roadmap. You see, so often IT is the main blocker.
Yeah. I believe that. Cool. That's the big stuff that I had in mind, Bart, that I think like people struggle with. And that's, I love the perspective on that because it's accessible improvements. Like these are things people can do right away or can like start to work on without a bank loan, without peeling off millions of dollars for next year's budget, or without like
Absolutely.
a long time horizon. So that's like speed to impact can mean more impact for like a longer time. So I feel like that's super helpful. Anything I missed in terms of what you offer that we didn't get into like the pick lanes
Oh,
so much and like optimizing picking you touched on just there. What
oh,
else?
it's fine. Yeah, picking in general, you can count on, let's say, picking productivity of 20% an increase there. So you can do the same with 20% less people working in the warehouse. The average, let's call it that way.
Yeah. How about things you see differences? This is unique to have international and European perspective. So, other than dimensional shipping being something that was like back and forth, what are other things you see that are like
The people are different in the US,
okay?
totally different. So if you want to do business in Europe, for example, it takes a lot longer. You jump on a call, second call, 10 calls further, and then perhaps at call number 15, they will decide then you need to run all those cybersecurity administration stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes we have a call with people in the US, and second call they say, let's go for it.
Yes.
So
And you're like,
they
all right.
decide this, yeah, they decide a lot faster, and their ideas, look, we're gonna give these guys a chance. If it works, it works, everybody happy. If not, we kick them out. And I think that's a lot more productive way of working. I like it a lot more.
Yeah. You can only talk about it so much and realize what it is
Yeah,
before
that's
you
it.
actually are doing it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and yes, in terms of cybersecurity and things like that, we got our certificates, we do pen tests, we're ISO almost ISO certified. So yeah, we got all these things, but still legal and IT takes so long. Why it shouldn't, I think.
Yeah. If you had to add one more new thing to your repertoire of services that you help people with, what would the next one be?
Employee planning, so resource planning, to know exactly on what tasks every hour in the warehouse, how many people you need, because it's also super linked to each other. For example, if you got a mix of automation and manual stuff, being on the picking side, on the packing side, an order might be manual picked partially during via the automation. Then you need to really calculate how many people you need every half an hour of the day, and you calculate everything back from the order cutoff time. And that's super important because people or companies don't always have that view on, they just say, okay, tomorrow I think we need 30 people. And they got a forecast of how many orders will come in, but throughout the day, there might be more, might be less. And you need to adjust your plan. And in that change and that modification, you can save again so many dollars.
Yeah, and you can probably retask for longer term projects or for like inventory or like come up with other ways for like that people can be useful when they're not like in their time slot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're gonna stay inside of the warehouse buildings. We're not going outside anymore.
There's plenty in there. Like, I don't think everyone's doing it perfectly, so I'm sure there's plenty of work to do. Yeah. Cool. And last one for you, Bart. Anything that's exciting, just industry wide, that's coming that you've been tracking that caught your attention? That like any new improvements or like a company is doing interesting things that like.
Well, I think robotics are coming up, but I still need to see the real ROI there, and that's basically it. So some cool stuff on, for example, next palletization, 3D stacking on pallets.
Yes.
It's really nice to see you already got like very expensive stuff, full automation with robot arms, etc., stacking on pallets. But
Yes.
the thing is, there are, I think, almost 95% of the companies, they're still doing it in a super manual way, taking items, putting it on the pallet. Now, you see two steps in between right now. The first one is you show those 2D visualizations, what we do at the moment as well. So you have less damages and a higher picking productivity, especially temporary people have a higher picking productivity. There is a next step. For example, your pallet is being taken around by a mobile robot,
Yes.
and the picker only needs to add it to that pallet. And I think there's also a very big potential of doing that. And then they need to show somewhere on a tablet or maybe with some visualization, this is where you need to position the SKU. So I'm quite curious how that will work out because people or companies cannot pay for the full automation, at least if they want a decent playback of the system.
I feel like it's going to be like a sporting event where like goods and people are all moving in the same
Yeah,
plane.
indeed.
Yeah.
It's always a combination of people and technology, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I think we covered some good stuff that would be helpful for people. I appreciate you spending time with me today. And
Likewise, Justin. Thanks
I'm
for
glad
listening
we
to
didn't,
me.
yeah, that we didn't cut into dinner hour over there with you and your
No
family
worries,
time.
no worries. I need to go to my mother-in-law right now, so I'm happy we were still able to talk a bit longer than
Yes.
planned.
I saved you for a half an
You
hour,
saved
Bart.
me big time. Do you have any more questions, Justin?
Yes. Yes. Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you, Bart. We'll be in touch.
All right, have a good day, Justin. Thanks a
You
lot.
too. Yeah. Bye bye.